Hello ladies and gentlemen, savvies and savettes, and welcome to my channel. I am VoxAgon. Today we're going to take a gander at Smite in 2017 by Hi-Rez Studios. I think it is a bit disingenuous of me to call this video taking a gander at, as I have been playing Smite since its last moments in beta and its earliest ones in launch. I have by no means ever been supremely skilled. My friends may call me passably adept, but that is exactly the framework that I want this video to be in. I am a casual player of Smite. I have no ambitions to be truly competitive or professional in the game, although I do enjoy a hard-fought match and competition surrounding my own skill level. This gander at Smite, then, is aimed at explaining and exploring the game to the average player, seeking the divinity of the gods. And if I may make one recommendation, there is no greater milk than sucking on the bountiful, bequeathing bosom of Bacchus. And maybe, if you enjoy this video, consider subscribing. Let's get the difficulty of type and genre out of the way. Smite is a third-person, in some ways action, MOBA, or multiplayer online battle arena. And while this term is contentious at present, used to describe any number of games where a few players are pitted against each other, in this particular sense, I use it, for better or worse, with reference to its classic origins, whereby players use hero characters, or in the case of Smite, goddesses and gods, along with allied NPC waves, or minions, in order to push one or several lanes of conflict, as if it were a furious tug-of-war, until one team has pushed and claimed the objective, usually the destruction of the opposing team's home structure. By this measure, Smite shares some of its properties with other well-known games in the genre, such as League of Legends and Dota 2, or Defense of the Ancients 2, and perhaps with new additional entries into the field, with the likes of Paragon, and, to a degree, Gigantic and Battleborn. Where then does Smite find its niche? Comparison and juxtaposition is often a useful tool for conveying to the consumer the functionality and ideal placement of a product, and it seems to me that this is quite possible for Smite as well. For this reason, I do not think it entirely unfair to place Smite in between Dota 2 and Paragon in a 2017 notion of relativity. It borrows mechanics and expectation from the former and perspective from the latter, and from both the dynamic of its monetization. Now, before I am taken to the gallows and quartered for my abuse of chronology, when I say the word borrow, I mean it in a very particular and special sense of the word, in that if you have knowledge of these other titles, the borrowed aspects are those which you may assume to have, at least to a degree, some parallel within Smite. It is also worth noting that Smite itself has birthed many of its own mechanics and game modes that separates and solidifies its own space within the MOBA market. The first of these, and perhaps the most obvious, is that Smite presses back against the creation of novel world and character lore to create its own, founded within the pantheons and deities of our own humanity, weaving together instances of lore that is inspired by Greek, Celtic, Norse, Hindu, Chinese, Egyptian, Roman, and Mayan mythos and mythology. Naturally, this narrative justification bleeds, or is the very heart of, the divine aesthetic of this title. The second is that of its perspective. Although not entirely unique by contemporary standards, when Smite launched in 2014, its use of a third-person perspective in combination with traditional top-down MOBA elements certainly was. The use of this camera angle binds itself powerfully to the gameplay of Smite. Through it, FOV or field of view may be limited to the fore, and the presence of mind of the player contained to a degree, opening up and encouraging cunning opponents to gank or ambush players by way of lateral or stern assaults. The third aspect is once again by way of its perspective. In Paragon, which also uses a third-person perspective for the action and gameplay of its battles, it uses its camera aspect as a more traditional shooter or action game would, having both pitch and rotation, horizontal movement and elevation, available to players in order to aim and attack their foe. Smite distinguishes itself from this sensibility by having all action and combat of its game take place on a single plane of aiming, without elevation, with the exception being one or two various characters' ultimate abilities. Apart from this, the skill of aiming within Smite primarily is ensuring the horizontal adjustment of your character and making certain that the ability of your god or goddess is within range of your enemy. It is this feature of Smite's unique playstyle, in combination with its aesthetic, art design, and especially its particle effect design and implementation, that leads Smite to be a very clean and precise game, where every visual element is easily understood, unobstructed, well telegraphed, and promotes a rapid understanding of any condition a character might be under at any point in time by its player. It is a result of a deft hand in the creation, execution, and speed at which skills and their accompanying effects play out across any of Smite's game modes and maps, which, similarly, have an unfettered and clean design to them, from the ground to the shaping of paths through the jungle, each bit of it promoting a keen readability by the player and to the player. If Smite were to have a mantra, it would be precision through beautiful minimalism. Consequently, it is this presentation of the game that keeps it graphically relevant for now, in spite of it being a little long in the tooth in 2017, with the likes of the sublime visual fidelity of Paragon beating at the door. It must also be noted that as of July 2017, Smite has received a DirectX 11 beta upgrade from its current DirectX 9 usage, and, along with this, a high-resolution texture pack, increasing the overall texture crispness in the world and on the character models. But there is only so far that their modified version of the Unreal Engine 3 may be pushed. The fourth and final of these distinguishing features is its actual game modes, which I will cover in just a moment, but it is worth explaining how exactly the gameplay in Smite, regardless of map, generally unfolds. Each goddess or god in Smite, by and large, has a passive ability, 3 active abilities, and an ultimate ability, with the exceptions being the various deities that have their ultimate abilities replaced by a stance switch. Various divinities have all manner of abilities in a multitude of combinations, from direct damage to healing to crowd control to stuns and ally buffs. These deities are also further divided into several classes of characters linked thematically by the role they occupy in a combat setting and the type of damage that they deal. These are, in no particular order, mages, warriors, assassins, guardians, and hunters. Over time, through killing minions, enemy players, and NPC jungle camps, the player's goddess gains gold. This gold is then used to purchase upgradable items, up to 6 in total, that the player may use to strengthen and augment both their character, their abilities, the stats of their goddess, which may influence facets such as basic damage and attack speed, and also to apply new passive effects to their character that may be useful to them in any particular match. All game modes, with the exception of Ranked Duel, see 2 teams of players face off against one another. By this, it is very rare, or a consequence of, let's say, incongruent teamwork, that any one player will ever fight against one other player. Collaboration and teamwork is vital to victory in any game of Smite, as it would be in most MOBAs, and picking deities that complement each other becomes a knowledgeable skill in of itself in the higher tiers of Smite players. This is not to say that the former situation may never arise, and 2 players may easily, and for a significant amount of time, fight against each other in the solo or middle lane of a Conquest map, for example. But, by and large, most encounters that end in the demise of another player occur as the consequence of a coordinated combat play, or just having really dreadful luck. Certainly, one of those 2. Before I move on to exploring Smite's game modes, it is important to note why I have chosen, particularly, to entitle this video Smite in 2017. As with most games that fall under the MOBA descriptor, they evolve over time, not only having their characters, heroes or deities tweaked and balanced, but also having the design of maps and functionality of purchasable items changed in order to better alter the game towards the studios and designers' current ambitions of play and balance. This is what is generally referred to as a game's, especially in online competitive games, meta. The way in which particular characters, their stats, the possible items, and their combinations and abilities may be used to best achieve victory over both enemies and a match in general. A static meta is one whereby certain characters are constantly favored and there is a quantifiable advantage given to these characters by the equipping of select items. This formulaic approach to character selection and outfitting usually ensures that the chosen character is either a powerful counterpick to an enemy character or one that is significantly powerful and exceptionally difficult to contend with on the field of battle. Conversely, a fluidic or dynamic meta is one whereby these repetitive memorizations are outweighed by the ability of skilled players to pick items for the character that benefit a certain situation instead, and that through careful and practiced play of their character, most battles may be overcome. The difficulty with this, naturally, is that over time, certain combinations do become favored and a meta slowly begins to solidify. To this end, in Smite, apart from frequent patches and god and item tweaks, each year, in the January-February period after the conclusion of the Smite World Championship esports event in Atlanta, Georgia, Smite usually receives an update that completely redesigns the meta of the game, referred to as the Smite season, and thus encouraging a dynamic meta once again with this reset of rejuvenation. Let's finally move on to that fourth significant distinguishing factor of Smite, its game modes. Conquest. It is the preeminent and competitive game mode of Smite, and indeed its most classic one within the game itself and the genre at large. It is a 5 versus 5 map where players battle against each other while pushing 3 lanes with minion allies and move between them via 2 large jungle sections. The jungle being the area of paths and concealment between the lanes. Each lane has 2 towers to protect it and a third stronger tower known as the Phoenix in Smite, nearer to each team's home base wherein their Titan, the enemy team's objective, may be found. In addition to this, there are several jungle camps on the map. If these are killed, various buffs, such as speed or damage, are granted to the deity that picks them up. Moreover, the jungle houses 2 boss-level camps, the Gold Fury and the Fire Giant. The Gold Fury grants a large gold bonus to the team that slays her, and the Fire Giant grants a large damage buff to each character on the team responsible for his demise. Conquest is the primary competitive game mode and map of Smite, and for this reason, it is usually recommended only to begin playing Conquest once a player has a basic working knowledge of the game as well as a few concepts behind lane picks and team coordination. For this reason, the mode is locked to new players until level 5, but please, do not let this discourage you as a new player. As soon as you hit level 5, please do jump into a Conquest game, for there is no finer representation of the smart gameplay available in Smite than that which will present itself in Conquest. There is no better way to learn than by doing, and in the low levels of Conquest play, the more stringent meta at higher levels is much more relaxed, as everyone figures out how the mode and their roles operate. Just do be aware that sometimes players can be, let's say, a touch hostile when games do not play out perfectly, or one is trying to become familiar with the game itself. I will cover this aspect later in the video, but please, above all else, do not let this discourage you from playing any game mode in which you find yourself having the most enjoyable gameplay experience. Smite is first and foremost a video game, and video games, generally, should be pretty fun. With the exceptions largely being teams and clans that play with configurations of the Conquest meta, a Conquest team will consist of a solo lane player, a middle lane player, a jungle player, and 2 players in the duo lane, occupying the roles of support and hunter, or ADC. ADC being an acronym for attack, damage, carry. This is, of course, a vast generalization, but as a good starting point for new players into Conquest, a solo laner will take a warrior, a middle laner, a mage, a jungler would take an assassin, and an ADC would take a hunter, and a support player would choose a guardian. Even at most levels of Smite, and its Conquest play, this combination of roles and classes would serve many matchups very well indeed. It is easy to recognize why Conquest is the chosen game mode for the Smite World Championship tournament. It has a reasonable playtime associated with it, commonly being between 30 to 40 minutes long, usually the longest of any Smite game mode available at present. It allows for the individual skill of a player to shine through while occupying their respective lanes, but additionally allows, most importantly, for a communicative and decisive team to triumph by way of coordination and well-timed team attacks. The nature of the map is one that encourages the setting up of exciting plays, the luring in of an opponent, the sudden ambush from the jungle, the attempt at a rescue as a mid laner transitions over to help. The combinations are incalculable and immensely satisfying and fun when achieved. To this day, it remains my favorite game mode in Smite. Clash is another 5 vs 5 game mode, but one that is much more focused in its design in order to almost keep players in a constant battle. There are 2 lanes to a map, each with 1 tower and a phoenix, but the lanes themselves are separated by a very small jungle on either team's side, and both lanes come to a type of intersection in the center of the map, which encourages teamfights as buffs that alter as the game progresses spawn at that location. Apart from these elements, there are a handful of mana and experience camps available to each team, but the emphasis of the map remains on lightning rotations between lanes and unrelenting teamfights. A team wipe in Clash is immeasurably devastating. It is a fast, intense game mode that thrives off a talented and well-coordinated team. In terms of sheer brutality, it is possibly the most prominent game mode in this respect in Smite. It possesses less tactical worth than Conquest, but makes up for this by the sheer joy of battle almost always occurring compared to the more pensive gameplay flows of Conquest. As most of Smite's game modes are, it is exquisite in its design and fulfills a unique role in the roster of the maps available in Smite, and one where roles and its meta is much more fluid than many other game modes. Siege. Oh dear, Siege. Perhaps my favorite strategic game mode outside of Conquest. Siege sees 4 players per team fight over a map with 2 lanes, each with 2 towers and a phoenix, separated by a large central jungle filled with various buff camps as well as a juggernaut camp, a core component as to the gameplay of this mode that relies heavily on hefty lane pushes assisted by special, brutish, large minions known as siege juggernauts, powerful units that can take and deal significant damage to enemy towers. A team spawns a siege juggernaut by amassing 100 points, achieved by either killing enemy minions or players, as well as clearing jungle camps. The very nature of Siege, having 2 players in each lane, plays into the idea of camaraderie rather well. Your lane partner and yourself rely on one another, not only to successfully push the lane, but to keep each other alive and survive potential jungle ambushes. There is no better game mode to suit the collaboration of 2 friends. If you have but one bodacious bud, this is the objective-oriented map for you, for it plays immensely well by oneself, better with a partner, and the potential for incredible strategy is vast when you enter a siege with a full team of 4, promoting cross-jungle ambushes, sudden siege camp juggernaut kills, and unexpected lane rotations to counter an enemy counterpick. Let us move on to Assault. What to say of Assault, other than it is the game mode that my dearest friends and clanmates force me to play more often than I would like. It is the epitome of randomness. The map is a large single lane without any jungle and pushed by 2 teams of 5 players and minions. Unyieldingly, they are funneled into one another, trying to be the first to destroy the opposing team's 2 towers, Phoenix and Titan. The catch, however, is that when loading into this game mode's lobby, every player has their goddess or god randomly, or mostly randomly with the mode taking into account various roles and matchups, assigned to him or her. This then is more or less the game mode. Players then grind against one another as if they were young Spartans grinding themselves into a tree in preparation for their own grinding in the hot gates. Plays and victories usually come down to careful timing and use of abilities in order to wipe the enemy team. While it is not the most tactical of modes, it certainly has its place, and sometimes one doesn't crave anything more than to let the fates assign you a goddess, allow yourself to evacuate your consciousness for 25 minutes, and press buttons until things, or your own character, dies. It is also worth noting that Assault is probably Smite's most popular game mode. In truth, who honestly doesn't love a good grind? Joust is Smite's premier 3 vs 3 game mode that is focused around a single lane, with a Soul Tower and Phoenix, 3 buff camps, and a small jungle to one side of the lane, which additionally houses the Bull Demon, that if activated by any team, sends a sphere towards the enemy's closest active tower or Phoenix and deactivates it, removing the protection that fighting under an allied tower might provide. This, by itself, opens up some interesting pushing maneuvers and constantly forces any team to try and always keep an eye out for when enemies disappear from the lane. The game mode ends when one team destroys the other's Titan. Moreover, it is the ideal game mode if you manage to have a party or group of 3 players and allows for unique plays and combos via aligning 3 characters' sets of abilities with one another. Usually a selection of a guardian or warrior with a mage and a hunter is the preferred picks of Joust. The guardian or tank being able to distract and absorb enemy damage, and the mage locking down and bursting enemy players along with the hunter, covering both types of physical and magical damage, making players more susceptible to at least one type of damage. Games are usually shorter than other modes, somewhere within the range of 20 minutes, and the attention given to precision play by way of only having 3 characters aside is one that is tactically compelling, and permits Joust to occupy another vacant game mode role without siphoning players from any of the others. The final game mode is Arena. Imagine a Roman Colosseum. Fill it with 2 teams of 5 deities, a few animals with various buffs for each intrepid team, and you more or less have the crux of what Arena is. Each team begins in Arena with 500 points, and every time an enemy kills one of your minions, your team loses a point. If an enemy kills an allied player, your team loses 5 points. Above this, from the minions that do spawn, if you manage to escort a friendly minion into the enemy's portal, certainly not as dirty as it sounds, but is wonderfully colourful, another point is deducted from the enemy team's pool. Lastly, when one team achieves 10 player kills, their side spawns a friendly Arena Juggernaut. If the team is able to escort this Juggernaut into the enemy's portal, immense pain is indeed suffered by the deduction of 15 points from their total pool. The first team to reduce their opponent's pool of points to 0 is the victor. Of all Smite's game modes, Arena is probably the most lax and freeform when it comes to character picks and its meta. The majority of time players are quite happy to accept any combination of characters and simply bash it out for 20 minutes and see who emerges the victor. Spawn times are low, the arena is small, and action is constant. It is a frenetic, energized game mode that, while devoid of great strategic worth, is supported by the potential for great displays of skill, just as any arena would encourage. A victorious team is not unknown to cast their arms to the side and delight in the broad reign of prestige and honor. As a personal touch, it serves vastly well as an opening or closing game mode to a decent session of Smite. In addition to all these modes, it would be remiss of me not to mention that on occasion Hi-Rez Studios rotates in new modes and map variations for particular events that they run. At the time of this recording, they are presently running a cooperative adventure mode, much like running through a dungeon against various monsters, and a variation of the arena mode, called the Corrupted Arena, whereby a dragon floating over the arena center causes parts of the map to fall away, encouraging players to use gods and goddesses adept in hurling, throwing, tossing, and charging enemies into their Abyssian doom. By way of this unending discussion of Smite's game modes, it, I believe, makes it rather apparent that one of Smite's core strengths is its vast arrays of ways in which Smite can be played. For each player, there is a game mode for their taste, from the intense, careful strategy of Conquest to the sheer, charging, bull-headed fun of Arena and Assault. And remember, for Assault, always respect the rules of the jumping party. Only a craven player destroys such a sacred covenant. And if you do not know what the jumping party is, it is one of Smite's most closely held and guarded secrets waiting for you to discover. To elevate the aspirations of any potential new players, I do want to speak, for a moment, about Smite's league and competitive side. All the game modes I previously mentioned, when played by way of simply clicking the big old green play button at the top center of Smite's interface, takes you into a normal match of the selected game modes, with other players matching your general skill level and player profile level. In addition to this general mode of play, there exists, as in most MOBAs, a league mode of the game, and in Smite, this form of higher ranked tier of play only takes place in the game modes of Conquest, Joust, and a unique one particular to its competitive mode, a direct 1 versus 1 match of true skill and precision character picking, known as Duel. Once a player progresses sufficiently and has unlocked and mastered the required number of deities in order to compete in league games, by which point the player has, undoubtedly, a vast working knowledge of the game and some of its more season-based meta particularities, she may begin to play a number of placement matches for that season that will determine where in the tiers or divisions of ranking for that specific game mode she will be placed within. The league ranks to Smite are as follows: Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Diamond, Masters, and the illustrious rank, limited to 25 players only, of Grand Master. It is worth noting that 2 players in a group may queue up for ranked Conquest, and a group of 3 may queue up together for a ranked Joust. Personally, I have never been the most talented Smite player, as I attested to in the introduction of this video, and during the zenith, as it were, of my Smite career, I believe I only managed to achieve a top-tier Gold rank. Regardless, at some point in time, I would encourage all players of Smite to at least give the mode a bash. There is a degree of excitement, team cohesion, and combat that is not available in a normal game mode. There is a certain type of beautiful ballet that dances itself across a Conquest map when it is played in ranked mode. It is worth testing the waters of it at least once. It also raises the pulse higher than any other instances of Smite games. The despair is all the more felt, but so too are the victories. As a small caveat, however, be prepared for even less toleration of poor play in ranked games, and in the lower tiers, Bronze and Silver especially, players may be quite a bit more toxic than one is used to in normal games, although perhaps not by much. Community. Your community in Smite is an incredibly important concept. There are a lot of players in Smite, as there are in any MOBA, that the anonymity of the internet grants them a rather aggressive and vitriolic behavior. By way of this, it is not uncommon to have vulgarities and aspersions cast upon one, either in a game of Smite itself or in the lobby channel after a game has concluded. In this instance, I encourage you, firstly, to report said offenders using the in-game report system after a match by clicking on the exclamation mark next to said person's name. And then secondly, but most importantly, keep in mind that these are merely words from unknown people, and although difficult, do your best to remember that, and not let someone else's mentality affect your own happiness and being. Just like Eliza Doolittle, as she said to Freddy, "Words, words, words, I'm so sick of words. I get words all day through, first from him, now from you. Is that all you blighters can do?" They are merely words in an inconsequential lobby or game chat. Cast them aside with as little thought as they were thrust upon you. The inverse of this situation, however, is that you will, without a doubt, meet some tremendously wonderful people in Smite, introduced by great plays or jovial chat and any other number of ways. I likewise encourage you to friend these people in-game, play with them often, and grow your own small Smite community. I know that if it weren't for the wonderful spectrum of international people that I have met in Smite, I doubt that I would still be playing the game as much as I do today. Remember, a foster Smite family are the goddesses and gods that you choose. You create your own pantheon of friends. As an ultimate concept to cover, I will swiftly touch on Smite's monetization. Dota 2 and Paragon aside, it is perhaps one of the most generous free-to-play games and MOBAs on the market. All deities in Smite may be unlocked by its in-game currency, favor, at a fairly reasonable rate, but given that Smite's pantheon is currently 90 strong, that may certainly take a good deal of time and investment. Alternatively, Smite offers a God Pack, which grants access to all current deities in the game, as well as any future gods that will be released during Smite's life as a video game, and this is sold for $30 United States dollars, or whatever regional equivalency may be present if procured through the Steam store. Beyond this, all cosmetics in the game, such as skins and ward skins and various other sundry articles, may be either purchased by favor or with Smite's premium, paid-for, in-game currency, gems. Usually simple color variant skins, as well as Smite's mastery-based skins, golden, legendary, and diamond, may be bought with favor. All other skins, by and large, have to be purchased with gems, from prices ranging between 200 to 600 gems a purchase, with a pack of 800 gems costing around 15 United States dollars. Skins in no way influence the abilities of a character and are only there for aesthetic bliss. However, that being said, I find no greater enjoyment than playing Khepri, an Egyptian beetle, and using his skin that turns him into a lobster, and dragging enemies into an allied pile of doom. Sometimes, the lobsters bring the boiling water. I hope you have enjoyed the somewhat lengthy gander at Smite in 2017, and that it has provided you with some insight as to how the title plays today, and whether or not there might be something appealing for you to find within it. If you are seeking a MOBA with a unique twist on perspective and play, then I do not believe that your time taken on testing out Smite would be wasted in the slightest. Although I split my time these days quite equally between Smite and Paragon, it seems to me that they do not occupy the same niche in terms of a third-person MOBA. There are keenly felt differences between the two, and the sheer vastness of Smite's styles and game modes are an attractive feature to many flavors of players, and with its use of both DirectX 9 and DirectX 11 running off the Unreal 3 engine, the game runs on a wide range of computers and specifications. If you find yourself playing Smite after this video, I hope that you have a fantastic time with it, and that your investment is returned to you many-fold over. I have been VoxAgon, and thank you for taking your time to watch this video. If you found it to be informative or entertaining at all, please feel free to hit that historically inaccurate like button. If you were a Roman emperor, that would have me executed. If historical inaccuracies are not your cup of tea, the dislike is just alongside it. Savis and Savettes, until we meet again.
Okay, Craig, you can use this footage.
Penguin, don't die! Why couldn't you start recording from here? We were actually doing sort of okay. You're a traitor.
No, 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 no!
Come here, Penguin! This poor guy.
Wow, awesome game.
Turn around! Well, no,
Yeah,
because
this
you used the
footage
footage
is
from the
dumb.
beginning when we were terrible.
How to turn back a Smite game.
Yeah, perfect video.
You need to use the You need to use the footage from the end of the video, not the beginning. I didn't say that! I'm still not happy with you using the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
I said the beginning of the video is a bad video. End is fine. I never changed my mind though.